I know. I'm back, and now it's time to do Ben Shapiro stuff. And, that's just a thing we gotta do. We gotta talk about this guy. He speaks fast, and he speaks weird, and I do not like him very much as an individual, but he has some conversations to be had about our current situation with the government shutdown. Now, obviously, the government shutdown is no longer a thing. The government shutdown is finished. Government's opened back up. President Trump has already said that he's already signed the thing for us to be opened back up. Everybody's back in business. Okay, cool. Hey, sirs, I made orange chocolate brownies. That sounds cool. You know what doesn't sound cool? This shit. This shit right here. So, this is the fan art section, and this makes me super happy seeing you guys put fan art in. This one's from Skitchy Scribbler, Slime Cat Suris not enjoying the consequences of the tactical nuke, and going into puddle mode. Not gonna lie, it looks like a melting blissy. Yeah, no, or like a melting blizzy. So, I don't know what exhausts me more, Ben Shapiro's mouth words or the mouth words that y'all forced me to speak there. But either way, I need to show you guys that Legiacris is in Magic the Gathering. There we go. Now I've gone through and I've completely pasted over the horrible memories of that day. That said, Ben Shapiro, tell us what things we need to be hearing with your mouth words. And I'm going to scoot you over here because my druid died. And I would like the ability to play a druid still, so I have to level up a druid again from scratch, because hardcore is hardcore, and my druid got the bonk.
A shutdown in American history, a shutdown that happened for literally no reason other than Democrats wanted some sort of campaign issue going into some special elections.
Wait, hold on. So the shutdown happened for literally no reason. Okay, are we ignoring what the Democrats actually wanted? Because the reason we went into shutdown was because the Republicans did not want to extend ACA benefits. The reason that most Americans are able to afford healthcare at all, that thing, the ACA, which is directly responsible for Americans being able to afford the ability to take care of their own bodies, that super important bit of legislation, that's also kind of like a landmark thing. Though I will say, I would rather not have the ACA. I would rather, instead of the ACA, us just have single-payer healthcare. That would be way better than the ACA, in my opinion. So, if we want to go through this system of getting rid of the ACA, I'm all for it, so long as we are willing to have, a different system in place besides the ACA. But right now, it's what we have. It's what we're working with. So I'd rather us have it so that people have access, to the ability to get healthcare.
According to the Wall Street Journal, the GOP-led House passed a spending package reopening the government. President Trump signed it into law late on Wednesday, drawing to a close a record-long 43-day shutdown driven by Democrats' demands to extend expiring healthcare subsidies. The House approved the measure 222.
Oh, I see. So you said, some campaign issue, but then, you read the actual thing and you're willing to actually understand, yes, there was a real issue. There was a real reason that the government shutdown happened. Now, again, the government shutdown would have been better if the thing that caused the shutdown would have been actually fought for better, instead of just arbitrarily handed over the promise of a vote happening, not the promise of a vote going the way the Democrats wanted it to, but literally just happening. Anyway.
209. Here was Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, very angry at Chuck Schumer for allowing the shutdown to end. Democrats love people. They love people so much they want them to be deprived of their SNAP benefits so that...
Okay. So you understand Democrats were not the ones responsible for depriving people of SNAP benefits. Congress as a whole had appropriated all the money required to pay for SNAP benefits in the event of a shutdown. This was acquired during the last shutdown. And yet, President Trump, not Democrats, fought tooth and nail to make sure that SNAP benefits would not be paid out to people during the shutdown. A thing that should have been all but guaranteed, because Congress, the ones who are supposed to be in charge of the power of the purse, wanted those funds set aside to make sure that SNAP recipients and, as an extension, our agricultural sector could be funded. That's not okay, Ben. You just throw the blame at Democrats. Go ahead, you can do that, but like the real situation is that Democrats are not the ones wholly responsible for that. The SNAP benefits going away are the fault of the person who said that the funds that were meant to go to people who needed SNAP benefits could not go to those people because his wiener was tiny.
And then just fill in the blank, because nobody knows what they were actually attempting to achieve. They were never going to achieve that which they sought.
I think it's important that we understand that this is not just about Senator Schumer, but that this is about the Democratic Party. Senator Schumer, there's no one vote that ended this shutdown. We are talking about a coordinated effort of 8 senators with the knowledge of Leader Schumer voting to break with the entire Democratic Party in exchange for nothing.
Of course, she is.
Yeah, that's my frustration as well. So we live in a world where the shutdown had a purpose. And I agree with the purpose of the shutdown. Make sure that the ACA benefits that everybody should be able to enjoy can be continued to be enjoyed for the time being. Like, it's not the system that I want, but it's better than not having a system to take care of this stuff in the first place. That's where we're at. But of course, multiple Democrats, all who are apparently strategically set up to not have their elections coming up very soon, so that people would potentially forget that they voted this way when it comes time to vote again. We're all coordinated to be the ones that would vote this way. Now, I've heard whisperings that apparently there were some leaks that showed that this was a coordinated effort and showed the reasoning why, but I do not have that in front of my face right now. So I'm not going to claim that that's the case, because like, I feel like that's the kind of thing that I would need to show proof for. I would want somebody else who was making a similar claim to show proof of that, and I do not have that in front of me. Unless somebody in chat has that right now, like that's an entirely different conversation.
She's attempting to promote herself as a possible presidential candidate. Attacking Schumer is a great way to do that. She might want to run against Schumer in a Senate primary in New York. Attacking Schumer is a smart way to do that as well. One of the tropes of politics that has become ever more common is that if you actually wish to be president of the United States, you must first attack your own party and then go on to attack the other party. This seems to be the strategy on both sides of the aisle these days. Hakeem Jeffries, he agreed that he's disgusted by the Republican spending bill. Now, again, it is just a continuing resolution, guys. This was just continuing to fund the government at the levels already funded. This is nothing new. He can be disgusted by the one big beautiful bill. That's fine. It's his prerogative. But the idea that anything new and magical happened yesterday is silly.
House Democrats are strongly opposed to this partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. We've said from the very beginning that we want to find a bipartisan path forward, that of course we want to reopen the government, but that we need to decisively address the Republican health care crisis. And that begins with extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Okay, now again, maybe they'll have that fight and maybe they will, have some impact politically, but they're not going to win that fight. The ACA tax credits are a massive, massive government spending boondoggle. That's what they are. That's why Democrats put them in place. The entire goal of the ACA eventually was for it to fail and then lead to nationalized healthcare. That was the entire goal, was to get people so dependent on the government dime that eventually people threw up their hands and said
You know that the people just didn't have the healthcare in the beginning. Like, okay, so Ben Shapiro words this as if, this was a way to get people so addicted to the teat that they wouldn't have a choice, but like they didn't have a choice beforehand. A vast majority of the people who are getting benefits from the ACA simply did not have health insurance beforehand. It's not, in one world they pull themselves up by their bootstraps and they have health benefits, and in the other world they're on the government teat. No, the worlds are people without healthcare benefits or people with healthcare benefits. That's the world. It said disgusting backstabbing. Kazooie says, I thought Obamacare was the conservative healthcare option. So there were votes that were had during the Obama presidency that led to the Affordable Care Act, and it was, coined Obamacare. It's the liberal position, which, if you're far enough left, is, of course, the position of centrism and therefore just a conservative position. Again, if you're far enough left, that's just the opinion you're going to have, is that any centrist opinion is ultimately conservative. Whether or not that is the correct way to view something or not my prerogative. Don't give a shit. Government with teats, stop! Stop! But what we're talking about right now is the idea of trying to get single-payer healthcare. So right now, Ben Shapiro and I are in agreement that the strategy should be to get to single-payer healthcare. That's what the Democrats should be fighting for the entire time. The Affordable Care Act is very much a bad system set up to make sure that something like single-payer healthcare, kind of, sort of, not really, God, it doesn't look quite like it, would be implemented. Now, I don't know if the ACA was built to fail. I do not believe that that was the case. I believe that the people who wrote the ACA wrote it with the intention of it being what we use as a country for an amount of time. A perpetual amount of time? Maybe. I don't know. I was not one of the ones who drafted the fucking bill. Conservatives, enough gutter brain for the night. If it weren't for the gutter, our brains would be homeless, Seffy. ACA was based off Romney Care in Massachusetts. How it was based off, I don't know. I'm not an expert there. I'm not. Like, I do not know if that is the case. I think McConnell put in as many poison pills as possible. Possibly. So Ben Shapiro seems to be of the opinion that Democrats poisoned the well on the ACA, but I don't think that's the case. Not really. But again, the ACA as it exists is better than what we had. I want the ACA to fail if it does in fact mean we get that single-payer healthcare that is far better. But that can be had even with the ACA not failing. That can be had with the ACA continuing and then simply being converted into another system. Like, that can happen there.
Government should just nationalize the entire system. That was Obama's original goal that has really not changed in any significant way. Meanwhile, GOP Representative Tom Emmer points out that it's kind of gross that Democrats are lamenting the end of the shutdown. And they talk about how the shutdown was worth it. In what way? Nothing was achieved.
That I agree. There's the shutdown would have been worth it if something was gained. But nothing was gained. Nothing was gained by the Democratic Party of note that I can think of. If there is something real, tangible, that was earned by the party from this, then feel free to let me know. But, like, I don't think that's the case. I don't think the Democrats got what they needed.
Well, they know it wasn't worth it. Frankly, the answers are disgusting. The behavior is even more disgusting. Literally, we're going to be voting on a CR that came over from the Senate. Martha, it's the exact same CR that House Republicans sent to the Senate back on September 19th with only one change.
Well, I mean, he is right about all of that. Now, President Trump's approval ratings on the economy have begun to slide. According to the most recent poll from YouGov and The Economist, Trump has a 33% unfavorable rating. That Joe Biden at kind of the last days of his term was down to 31%. So again, 40% of Americans now approve of Trump's job performance, according to the CNN aggregate. 59% disapprove. And when it comes to the economy, that is where things are really dicey for President Trump. Only 39% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of the economy. 38% approve of his handling of trade. 34% approve of his handling of immigration.
Okay.
So again, his handling of immigration has been fine. It's just that
how
when you get dragged down on the economy, it drags everything else down too. Okay, which means that now the administration is...
I love that Ben Shapiro thinks that the handling of immigration has been fine, when in a different country, in a different time, all the same rhetoric that he would be supporting right now would have been used against Jews. But Israel uses similar tactics, I guess, so I guess he's okay with that. Neat. True, thanks to the 8 farts, no more leverage. These people ain't trustworthy, in my opinion. Look, Democrats love losing. You have no idea. Democrats, as a unit, they are all about loss. 100%. They are all about that. Because it gives them something to politically use as leverage during the next campaign. Democrats are all about the next campaign. In fact, I would argue that career Democrats are damn near identical in every conceivable way to lifelong Sonic the Hedgehog fans. And not just people who like Sonic the Hedgehog, but like actual fanatics. What I mean by that is If you've been a Sonic fan, then you've heard the words, "This game is a great step forward," for a lot of Sonic releases, where we just kind of accept that the Sonic games we're going to get suck. That's not the case right now. Shadow Generations was fucking great. But once upon a time, we just accepted that Sonic games that were coming out sucked. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. And every time a new game came out, we go, this is a great next step. This is a great step forward. This is a great vision for the future. And we had a great vision of the future for 15 fucking years. That was the reality of being a Sonic fan for the longest time. I think Democrats are identical to that. Instead of giving us something that is good right now, we have a constant, this is a great vision of the future. This is a great strategy we'll be able to use in the future. This is a great thing we'll be able to use later. Vic Fian says, I'd like to argue with you, but you're telling the hard truth. I know I'm telling the hard truth. I don't want that to be the case. I fucking love Sonic. I am glad that thanks to Frontiers, Mania, and Shadow Generations, we don't live in that world anymore. But we did live in that world for so goddamn long, I'm still burned by it. Axo says, Boom wasn't that bad. The video game? The Sonic Boom video game? Yes, it was. It didn't work. It didn't work. Game didn't fucking work. Like the government shut down from the Democrats. It just didn't work. Gamers who hoard items at least win the game eventually. Fucking elitist wanting games that work. I know, right? Wanting games that work it's awful. It's a bad habit of mine. I'm sorry. I should be okay with Sonic 06 forever. I should be okay with Sonic 06 and Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. Till the day I die. Axel says, I liked the story. Okay, but did you play the game? Did you play the video game? Because at the end of the day, good story or not, I didn't hate the story. Lyric's not the worst villain in the world, but like, video games are games. They are things you must be able to play and be able to enjoy. And if the game part, if the gameplay part of the video game sucks, it can have the world's best 10 out of 10 story. I'm not super thrilled with it. Either way. Okay, he's got a bit here about socialism rising. I want to see what's going on there, but...
Equivalent to talk affordability. That's not a surprise. After Zohran Mamdani's win in New York, affordability is the word of the day. And as we discussed at length yesterday, and yes, the day before, the way that you actually increase affordability, the way to make products cheaper is to make them more plentiful. If you go to a store and there's one steak and there are 100 customers, that steak will be very expensive. If there are 200 steaks and 100 customers, the steak will be very cheap.
Okay, so... Ben, what you're talking about is simple supply and demand. You're doing Economics 101. But what about Economics 102 and 103? I'm sorry, but supply and demand is not all there is to know about how things can become affordable. Things are not just affordable when there is a surplus of them. There's a surplus of Magic the Gathering fucking cards. You can make artificial scarcity within a framework of something that is otherwise unaffordable or otherwise affordable. Said Six is best girl. I need Six to have a podcast. Axo, I hate to tell you this, but Styx the Badger already has a podcast. Let me show you the Styx the Badger podcast real quick. I need you to understand that we already have that. Styx the Badger already has a podcast. Styx the Badger already has a podcast. Right here. This man right here, this is Styx the Badger. 100%. Styx the Badger is just Alex Jones. I promise you. I promise you.
Increase the supply, retain the same demand, the price goes down. It's a very simple formula. If you wish for affordability, you must increase supply. And if you wish for cheaper products, that means also increasing the supply of the inputs into making the product. So if you're making a car, and it costs a lot of money to make the engine, the overall car will be more expensive. If you lower the cost of the inputs, meaning the cost to make the engine, then the car will be less expensive. All this is very, very basic stuff. But for some reason, politicians have a very difficult time with understanding this because it mostly means get the hell out of the way. And politicians are constantly called on to take their hands and shove them in the economic pie and start moving them around all weird. And what that does is it creates uncertainty, and it doesn't actually end with broader-based economic growth. What else don't you know about what you're buying? That's why...
All right, that's an advertisement. We're going to get away from that. Instead of that, you could just go over to my sponsor. I have a sponsor, if you guys didn't know, and that sponsor is actually Manipool. If you like Magic the Gathering cards, these guys actually do sponsor my channel. Well, they sponsor my Magic the Gathering channel, but I don't think they're going to complain about more sales from you guys. In the description below, there should be a link to Manipool. If you use that link and you have not used Manipool before, you will get $5 off your Manipool purchase. If you have used Manipool before, then it still does support the channel. So thank you very much for that. Also, Sephi, God fucking balls damn it. You got your thing. Why are you like this? That's for Styx. I didn't insult Styx. She's objectively furry Alex Jones. Tsunami Sesson says it's one factor in lower and rising costs. It's more complicated than that. Again, so Ben Shapiro's MO is to sell a facts don't care about your feelings and keep it simple, stupid approach to people. Because people who are never going to have a hand in politics, are never going to have a hand in the economy, still get affected by it. They get affected by both those things. And those people watch Ben Shapiro. And when they do, they get their opinions from him. They get a overly simplified view of how the world works from Benny Boy. She is a cute she's cute. Alex Jones is, yeah, she's cute because she's a furry. And furry women can be hot. And Alex Jones can't. Because he's a scum-sucking moron. I understand that. It doesn't change what she is. She is femme furry Alex Jones. My God. She is better than that? Whether or not she's better than Alex Jones is immaterial. That is what she is. Look, all I'm saying is, Styx would definitely blame the globalists if she were to lose her boomerang. That's all I'm saying. Axel says she's correct about things. Styx in the black dress from the second episode. You know, these words in this order has created fan art in the past. I don't know if it has or not, but I'm not afraid. Y'all are gonna corrupt my words no matter how I say them. Leaning away from it and trying desperately to protect myself has done nothing but caused me pain in the past. Tsunami says, Styx also has way better comedic timing. I'll have you know, the comedic timing of Alex Jones breaking down and crying will never be usurped by anything Styx has done. It is way funnier to laugh at Alex Jones crying. Axel says, we will defend our girl Styx. Yeah, go ahead. Defend Styx. That's fine.
Policies that are designed to appeal to specific economic groups. So President Trump the other day, he kind of threw up against the wall the idea that there would be a tariff rebate because he understands that actually the tariffs are not great for everybody. That tariffs actually in certain industries have increased the prices, that it's made it harder to do business, and that the tariffs haven't even felt their full impact yet in the economy because of all of the vacillation around what they are, what the rates are, who's going to pay it, will the Supreme Court strike them down. Yesterday, the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, he said not everybody will get that tariff rebate that President Trump had suggested, a $2,000 tariff rebate, which again, if everybody got a $2,000 tariff rebate, that's inflationary. That's just a stimulus package. So if you want to lower prices, that's actually the wrong way to do it.
Okay, so I have a question. Do we actually have any evidence that everybody immediately getting a bunch of money to stimulate the economy once inflates the prices of everything? Like, as a direct causal thing, not just a couple of grocers going, we can take advantage of this shit. Also, you know that something being inflationary is not the worst thing in the world. This may sound counterintuitive, but inflation is something that happens with money naturally. And inflation is the sign of inflation happening at all is a sign of a healthy economy. Now, that does not mean we have a healthy economy. No. But my comparison would be Japan. So Japan, apparently, from what I have read, the Japanese yen is currently appreciating in value, which is not a good thing. It sounds counterintuitive, but inflation is a natural thing that happens in an economy. What you want is for inflation to be kept under control. But if you are somebody who knows more about the economy than I do, which is very likely, I'm not an expert here. I am just quoting the things that I have read, is that we talk about things being inflationary and we talk about tariffs as if both these things are like automatically bad. We had tariffs before Trump. It's the way they're being utilized that fucks us. And we're always going to have inflation. That's the sign that you have an economy where money is moving. You need to also have that inflation under control. That said, I'm not an expert here. But I also believe that Ben Shapiro is not an expert here either. You've read, therefore you know more about the economy than MAGA? Yeah, but I don't. So here's the thing. I've read, and therefore I know that I don't know enough. I know that this is not an area of expertise for me. This is not an area where I can claim to have any more knowledge than the Joe Schmo down at the bar. I can say things that I have heard from people who I believe have more expertise than I. But I can't do much more than that. Said inflation wouldn't happen if we had Styx. Axo, Styx is a character in the Sonic the Hedgehog game series. That means that objectively, her presence increases the amount of inflation that you will experience. Anyway, socialism rising is his next point. I want to see what's going on here.
Down below.
Oh, does he not actually get to it in there? Okay. Never mind. I wanted to see his point on socialism rising, but I don't feel like moving through the rest of his video to get to it. Anyway, point is, I may not be an expert, but the oversimplification of how the economy works is not actually informative. I would encourage you, dear viewer, to please do me a favor and look up what is a healthy amount of inflation for an economy, and not the economy of deviant art. That's a different conversation altogether, and for some of you, probably a conversation you ought not have. Regardless, look that up, figure that information out, so that you will do better than I do at explaining this. Because I'm not an expert here, and I'm not going to fucking pretend to be one. But I also think Ben Shapiro has a track record of saying things that are actually just untrue while they're being oversimplifications. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.